Welcome to Cuentame USA with Moncho Camano. Today is a wonderful day. I'm gonna have a conversation with an awesome person. It's going to be a real pleasure to talk to Jo Quail. She's a cellist and composer from the London, UK, across the ocean. She incorporates a really vast and wide musical genres in her music, and we can name a bunch of them. Dark ambient music, some I guess modern and classical music, progressive, even some metal. I don't know, so much stuff. She has no boundaries, and I guess she has no default musical settings. So we're gonna talk to her about her new project, her new album, some the other albums, which are great, and maybe I did do a summary of her career if she wants to do that. If not, we'll talk about whatever she wants. I don't really care anymore. Whatever, she's here. That's all I care. So we're gonna say hello to Jo. How are you, Jo? Jo, Miss, how are you doing?
Oh, hi, Jose. I'm very well, thank you. And it's a great pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you for inviting me.
It's been wonderful. I feel like, let me tell you, I've been interviewing many artists and musicians. I'm always sincere with my audience. Sometimes it takes a while for me to get into it, and I do try to do a lot of research depending of who the artist is. So do some research. Let me tell you, I've been researching so much stuff about Jo that I've been learning so much. So it's a great pleasure after doing all this research to have her. So I'm really
Thank you.
happy. Let me
Thank
tell
you.
you, I'm happy. I'm a happy. It's a happy day for me. Okay. Sometimes I look like a little, like like a dull face. I feel like I have not too much energy. Today I have a lot of energy. Let me tell you, even if it's so early. We're gonna talk about her. I'm crazy. Her looping techniques are like unbelievable. The way I see her play. So we're gonna find out all the stuff about her. So let me tell you. Also, she's very busy schedule. She's always working. Seems like. I don't know. I'm gonna ask her. Do you have any dates in your calendar for vacation this year?
Yeah, we will take a family holiday. We have a daughter who's school age, so we take family holidays during the summertime. So a week or so.
Yes.
But there are also other days here and there where we do activities. So I do take plenty of days off. It's currently we're starting what's half term over here, so in the middle of the semester, the week
Okay.
break. So we will have some. We will go to some places and have some
Okay. Okay.
fun.
That sounds good to me because of I did this research and I found out she did a vacation and she went to the Canary Islands. I'm
Oh
like,
yes,
oh boy, beautiful
yeah,
landscape,
yes,
Lanzarote with a
yeah.
Lanzarote.
It's see, somewhere I find that particular island very inspiring, and the island of La Palma as well,
Mhm.
which is where I wrote Volcano Song, funnily enough, from Caldera, my second album.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and that was the landscape in these islands. Shut me up if I'm going off on a tangent, but I
No.
find the landscapes very inspiring. When I first start to write a piece of music, I took several hikes right across the Caldera in La Palma, the
Okay.
same landscape in Lanzarote. When you're very high up, the colors are muted and sort of these grays and reds, these colors, and all of the anything that grows there is very small because it's so windswept, very low. And this is the sort of landscape I sense that I'm in when I'm first beginning to write a piece of music. And actually, I mean, this was the landscape I was trying to describe right at the start of the cartographer as well. So it feels
Oh,
like you begin at the top, and as you write the music, you make your way down the volcano. And then when you have sort of created something, it's almost like the vista opens out. So this is why I particularly love the Canary Islands for this.
oh, that's wonderful. Being from Spain, I've never been there. I
Oh.
feel embarrassed. She knows more about the Canary Islands than I do.
There's
Of
some
course.
beautiful concert halls actually over there as well. In
Oh,
Lanzarote, there's the Jameos del Agua, which has a huge concert hall built into the volcano itself. It's lovely.
hmm. I will have to visit.
You will.
Hmm, I will. Hmm. You seem to me like a very modest and unpretentious person. Always like straightforward, I guess.
Yeah.
You got a very friendly character. It looks, you know. Does this treat does it run in the family, or you're like a very special person? Oh, yeah.
Well, Jose, I can be a diva when I need to be or when I want to be, but I think I don't know. It's a very nice thing that you say. I mean, we are a family of well, we're just a loving family, you know, with a messy kitchen, and the music is my life. Being a mother is my life. Being a wife, being a daughter, everything. There is no separation in these things. It's, you know, that's all.
Hmm. You began your music career at a very early age.
Yeah.
So, 5 years old, 6 years old. How
Yes,
old were you
yeah.
when you started? I was
Well,
playing in Cowboys and Indians at 5 and 6 years old. I was.
well, as I was too, but we were very lucky because at the time there was a project offered to all inner London primary school children, and of course it was much smaller. This was like 1,000 years ago, so it was much more containable then.
Hmm,
And this project was offered to give free violin or cello lessons to every child who wanted it in inner London. So
okay.
it was a wonderful project. The organisation still exists, but the ethos behind it is slightly different. Naturally, it became much larger, so it had to become fee paying. But at the time, it was
Hmm,
offered for free. I never would have taken up the cello otherwise. And we always had a piano in the house, and my mum, she plays piano. Um,
okay.
and so I can remember sitting next to her when I was very, very little and just playing, you know, middle C. And so yeah, I've been very lucky to have opportunities and to have encouragement from
Hmm.
people as well.
But
That's the biggest
but
thing.
but the cello wasn't your primary instrument.
Well, actually, I didn't want to play anything at all. So when the letter first came round, I said no to it. But then one semester later, when, you know, we age five, one family went to live in Germany. So there was a place in the class. So I went with
Hmm.
my best friend in order to presumably not do something else that was happening in the school day. And and then that was it, you know, my first tiny little quarter-sized cello with Inner London Education Authority was scratched into the bottom of it. And that was, I will never forget that ever,
Hmm.
that moment, you know, it's
Hmm.
wonderful.
That was wonderful. So I was gonna ask you. I have so many questions. You joined the London School Symphony Orchestra when
Yeah,
you were like a teenager, right?
yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah. So the London Schools Symphony Orchestra, this organization I described to you, the ones that offered the string teaching,
Right.
um, they also had uh, a, a, a series of orchestras. So there was the London Junior Strings String Ensemble, London Concert Orchestra, and then the London School Symphony Orchestra. And so you kind of naturally progressed through those. And
Oh, okay.
playing in the London School Symphony Orchestra was fantastic because obviously I was introduced to a lot of big orchestral repertoire, as is Mahler or
Hmm.
Debussy or this, that, and the other, Sibelius. And I had the opportunity to perform in concert halls, the big concert halls in London, and to learn the discipline of performing as part of a much larger ensemble. If you like, the individual responsibility, even as part of a section within a symphony orchestra, and just basically how things work in this
Hmm.
way. And you know, it sounds rather obvious probably, but getting to know all of the instrument families because you're sitting in a rehearsal, you're listening to the brasses, the woodwinds, the
Right.
percussions, whatever else going on. So now I do a lot of orchestration of my own work, and this has been invaluable as a training ground, actually having the experience of sitting in the orchestra and knowing what these things are going to sound like.
Hmm. But it gave you also because you didn't want to fit. Like, is that you didn't really enjoy playing what was written for you? Like very
Yeah.
strict for, like
Eh,
no freedom to create other composition. I don't know how to say, but
Yes, yes. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. So that is something that happened. Being part of that orchestra, and then I went on after that to take a degree in music. And
hmm,
during that period of time, I began to realize that I was not um, passionate as some of my friends were about this particular side of performing music.
hmm,
And I felt that I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that it wasn't to be an orchestral player. And at the
hmm,
time, there was not really any kind of. Now we have people like Apocalyptica, we have Tina, we have all sorts of wonderful cellists doing wonderful things, very exciting things. But at the time, that wasn't happening. And so
uh-huh,
for me, I think perhaps because I wasn't very mature in my mind either. So I wasn't a diva, Jose, then, so I wasn't able
right.
to say, this is not right for me. Instead, I crept away bit by bit, and I took my music degree, performance degree, got a
Hmm,
good degree, but then I stopped playing for several years because I just didn't feel that I knew how how I didn't have the voice in my cello to say the things I wanted to say musically. So I
hmm.
stopped.
How about your friends in school? Were they into the same type of music that you were, or were
No.
they were outsiders?
Well, it was great actually, because in my high school, um, I was a bit of a weirdo because I played the cello, and I went
Okay.
to a pretty rough state school that actually was a phenomenal school. But you certainly had to be able to take care of yourself, and if you did anything kind of extraordinary, well, not extraordinary, but unusual, like playing the cello, then
Hmm.
you were the target for lightweight bullying. And stuff. But what was interesting is at the time, I mean, it was a very interesting time. So there was all sorts of things going on. I had a great teacher at that school. So my music education was outside of school, but the music classes, I had a very, very great teacher who's sadly passed away now, but he introduced lots of different things into the music lessons. And so things, whereas I would have a full-on classical training outside of school,
Hmm.
in school we had, there was sort of, hip hop, early R&B and stuff like that. Lots of metal going on, lots of
Hmm.
interesting, diverse sounds, lots of world music as well. Some projects with Bajhat Khan and non-Western musicians. So it was a really big
Hmm.
introduction to an awful lot of sound. So it was good.
Hmm. Hmm. Was there like a big record collection in your house? Was there like cassettes or CDs? What did you have?
Yeah, so my dad, so the record collection really was my dad's. My dad had the Kinks, Tony Joe White, Pink Floyd,
Hmm.
or Melanie, all sorts of bits and pieces. My mum's tastes were much more into sort of the classical side of things, and my mum actually she is still, and became very, very interested in contemporary music, and particularly contemporary music for amateur or non-professional ensembles, which because it had been really quite sort of an elitist, in some respects, an
Okay.
elitist sort of form of, very, very not necessarily as accessible as it could be. So
Okay.
anyway, all these things blended in together. Um,
Hmm. So little by little, I guess
mm,
for you that your musical career is being a step-by-step process,
yeah,
like gradually advancing,
yes,
but,
yes,
but
yeah,
always
absolutely.
striving forward, I guess.
Yes, yes.
So when you play in different ensembles, musical bands and groups
Mm.
that I seen, I was listening some of the EPs from Hush the Many. I said, let
Oh,
me
were
listen to
you?
them. Yes,
Wow, gosh, thank
yeah,
you. Yeah,
the folk band. It
yeah,
was very interesting. I really enjoy the
good,
music. And you
good.
were part of them, but not at the beginning, right? You were,
That's correct. So
yeah.
they were a three-piece, and they supported me when I was touring with an Australian artist in the UK. This was years and years and years ago. And when I
Right.
saw them on stage, I heard their music, I really felt very drawn to them. And then I was able to meet them after the show, and we discussed perhaps playing together. And actually, Ruben, who's He was the guitarist in Hush the Many. He is now he's my husband, so that's how I met him.
Is Ruben Nima? Is that his name? No,
So no, Nima is the
it's
singer,
Nima.
and then there was
Nima was
Alex
the
on
singer.
bass
Okay.
and Ruben on guitar. Yeah.
Okay. So I know. Now I
Mm.
know.
Yeah.
So four of them. It's I think the singer was I don't know if it was bleeding from her hands or so. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, Nima. Yes, he
Nima.
tended to get quite physically involved in the performance. Very, very
Very
charismatic man,
yeah.
you know.
It felt like Iggy Pop when he was
Mhm.
doing I don't
Yep.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was very interesting. So when so many things I want to talk to you, but when was the first time you started doing some looping technique? Who showed you how to do that, or how did it get to your attention? Like something that you really wanted to do.
Well, that was Ruben actually, and it was
Okay.
because of Hush the Many. So Ruben used to use a line six pedal for looping, and this was a pedal that it was a multi-effects pedal, but it had 14 seconds of loop time, or 28 if you halved your speed.
Okay.
And he just lent it to me one day and said, try that out. And at that moment, the world opened. You see, the thing is, Jose, I have been used to the sound of a cello ensemble because when I was little at the
Mm,
at the Centre for Young Musicians in the school project I explained to you,
yeah.
there were lots of us playing the cello, too many for an orchestra. So we would rotate, and many times there would be the orchestra, and then there would be a cello ensemble of, say, 12 cellists. And so I
Mm.
was used to the sound of multiple cellos. So when I started looping then, as an older
Okay.
person, it was a sound I was so familiar with, and I felt so comfortable. Very simple. I started very simple, just one or two notes, and then making some chords. But the possibility was there, and perhaps also the memory of this really enjoyable period of time when I was taught this sound came back
Uh,
to me. And then I moved on to the Boss pedals because they had slightly more flexibility. I have always used Boss pedals, and now all the way through their series. And now I use the RC600, which is their flagship loop station, which is a phenomenal piece of
yeah,
equipment.
yeah, because I'm seeing you playing with them, with the
Mhm.
RC600, also the 300. I think I
Yep.
saw some
Yeah, yeah,
videos
300, yeah, as
that
well.
you used in the previous albums.
Yes, and I used to use the RC 20, 30, 50, all of them. I've
All
got
of
them all
them.
in the garage. You could have like a museum of Boss pedals is here.
So, but do you still use them, or no? You got them like
I use them, I take them out
oh, you
sometimes
take
when I'm
them out.
doing workshops because they are still very, very good pedals. And they're also possible for people, if people are curious about looping, they can usually pick one up on eBay or something for
Hmm,
a very sensible amount of money. So they are, I mean, many improvements have been made to the
of
pedals as
course.
they go on. But if you're just starting out in looping, then I find if I'm doing a workshop, these are the ones that people can try out with and they feel inspired by. So yes, I do use them. I wouldn't take them on the stage now, only the 600
Right,
because the quality is
of course.
much larger. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you teach in university or
Yes,
some
I do.
classes?
Yeah, so I teach at an online university. We've got students from all over the world, and it's
Hmm.
professional media composition, orchestration, and songwriting and music production. So my students are all sorts of people from all walks of life, all very, very passionate, very, very skillful composers too. So it's a
Hmm.
it's a privilege to, just walk with them on this
Right.
journey.
Hmm. So, did you decided to start you launch your own solo career in the early 2010, was it?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
That's when you decided to step away from other like projects with other. Well, you've been collaborating with so many people. It's like you're never on your own. It's like you're always dealing with other musicians. But
Yeah,
your
yeah,
solo your solo projects started in 2010. That's
that's
when,
right.
yeah. And
That's yeah.
and why did you decide to start on your own, like doing your own
Well,
music?
I mean, there were several reasons, but the primary reason was that because I'd started to play the cello again after this hiatus,
Mm,
I was very much enjoying playing in bands, but there was something in the back of my mind that was saying to me, no, you have to take 100% control of what you're doing just for
Mm,
a period of time. I didn't intend it to be a fully fledged solo career forever and ever, but it was very
mm,
important to me, I think, to have this. It was almost, it was like a kind of a birth of sorts. I wanted to have complete control over
mm,
every single aspect of sound that I was doing. And perhaps it's just deeply psychological, I'm sure. But I enjoyed the process very much. I enjoyed the creative freedom. I also enjoyed the responsibility. But I was very lucky because I had friends around me. So I had a gentleman called Ben Matthews, who was
mm,
very, very supportive man and helped me to record. I had other people who would contribute some spoken word, Mohan Rana, or some instrumentation. But I was in charge of it, and this was a very important move for me, I think.
hmm.
You know,
Yeah. So your first record is From the Sea in
yes,
2010.
yes,
In this album, do you use your acoustic cello, but also both the electric Starfish
yes.
cello, both of them on this
I use
album?
both. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Hmm. I There's so many songs I enjoyed. The last one is, I think, the heaviest one. I don't know, Fair Forward,
Fair
probably.
Forward, yeah, Fair Forward is interesting because that was each of the albums that I've done has been a signpost by accident to what I'm going to
Hmm.
do next. So Fair Forward actually was a signpost to what was coming quite a long way later when I began to feel that it was okay to experiment with broadly with
Yeah.
sound. But yeah, From the Sea, interestingly, the first track on that album is a track called Rex in Fractus, and that
Yeah.
is one that I play. I didn't play it for years and years, and now it's part of my set. But the track has developed so much. It's huge now,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah. Because I saw it on
confident.
YouTube. I think that that in some
Yeah,
venue that you
so,
played that one.
yes,
Yes,
exactly.
I
But it's
heard it.
very different now. I mean, it's got
Yeah,
this
yeah,
big like ram of sound, but
yes.
a lot of space. So it honors the original track, but I knew that there was something else to be said with that piece of music, but at the time I didn't have the vocabulary, if you like, in the
Hmm.
first album. Now I have the vocabulary, and now it says what I want it to say. So
Yeah,
it
it's so great.
takes time.
Yeah, I listened to all these albums. I told Joe that I really had no idea who she was till like 3 months ago. So I
That's fine.
apologize for that. You miss. There's so much music outside that you don't know about, and you're never gonna hear. And that's bad. I wish I could listen to the good music only, but sometimes you're wasting time listening to the other stuff that you
Aha.
have to get
Yeah.
to the music that you love. Sometimes
Yes.
you miss it and you're never gonna listen, but it's impossible. It's like meeting nice people. There
Yeah.
are so many nice people out there you're never gonna find,
Yeah.
but you're gonna find a lot of crazy cuckoos also. So
Yeah.
that's how life is.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There is a song also from that album that it took me this mosquito song. I don't know. I
Oh
listened
yeah.
to that song. When it starts, I thought it jumps into like a little flamenco. I don't know. It sounds to me at the beginning, but then it moves away totally from that.
Yeah.
But I remember that listening to that song also.
Ah, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
there's so much stuff. Uh, so it was a good start, I guess, from the sea for you. It was
Yes.
you got a lot of recognition for that album, and
Yeah, I mean, comparatively speaking, given that
yeah,
from a place of from a standing start, if you like, from a place of no
right,
recognition to there, the Falconer, which is on that record, proved to
right,
be a very popular track. Sometimes I play that one again. It, it's it is it's actually a very useful track to teach with because it's
okay,
possible to perform that whole track just on a single channel loop.
mm,
Provided you can undo the last thing you put in, you can perform the Falconer. So I have it scored and I use it in these sorts of environments just to teach people a very basic, not basic in a negative way. So it's a gentle and very possible way to loop. So
mm,
encourages. It's not difficult to get going if you use this type of
right. Hmm.
approach.
Also, your influence, your inspiration, which I don't know. Some people say there is no inspiration; it's just hard work. if you don't work hard, there is no inspiration. For you, what it is both. You gotta work really hard, and but you need inspiration from other influences like that are drawn, like poetry, or it could be psychology, nature,
Yeah.
paintings, everything,
Yeah,
art.
exactly. Exactly. But you have to, I think it's you have to you have to work hard. So yes, the inspiration will come from anywhere and from other sounds, from other tracks, from other
Right,
unrelated genres. But the you must have, I think, the desire to translate that inspiration into your own artistic output, which hopefully then will inspire somebody else to make their artistic output. That's the hard work. That's what takes hours and hours and days and months of time. The
right.
initial inspiration is there like a big kind of glowing ember, and then you must uh, put the right energy into this in order to make it fully flourish, you know?
Right, but you're when you create, when you construct your compositions,
Mm.
they don't come from a specific theme or concept? Does it come only from one? It comes from different concepts at the same
Comes
time, and then you expand on it, like you
yeah,
build it. It takes
yeah,
like a
yeah.
configuration, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, each album has had a different starting point. So for example, Five Incantations, I was very interested in exploring what I call the cardinal energies in that. So it's earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. And each of those pieces was created once the DNA had been discovered, if you like, of the piece, then that piece was
Hmm.
created with those energies in mind. Now, in terms of, I remember, for example, with Salamander, I started to write
Salamander,
that piece
great
in,
piece of work. Yes, I heard that
thank
one. I
you.
listened to that many times.
It,
Salamander and Gold.
oh, gold. Yeah, gold has been very,
You
very
still play it?
popular.
Play that one also.
I
Very,
play it regularly.
yeah,
I
it's
can't
great.
not play it because it's often the one that if nobody knows anything at all, they may have heard gold. So gold is one that I have to. I love to play it as well, but it
Yes.
needs to. When I put it in a set, it's greeted warmly usually. Salamander is interesting because the starting point of Salamander was I remember being in a studio in East London doing some preparation for a tour, and I was just mucking about basically, and then suddenly this little riff thing came, and that was what became Salamander, and I was interested at that point
Hmm.
in uh, starting to use polyrhythms on the loop. So basically two rhythmic cycles running against each other and experimenting with how you can do this on a loop station. And the way you can do it is to make your bar length as short as possible. So if you have like two beats in a bar or even one beat in a bar, then that means you can run, for example, 15 beats over 16 beats if you want to. I mean, probably one wouldn't want to do that because
Hmm.
that's too fine and too confusing. But with Salamander, I run the opening of the piece of music has 7 beats in a bar, and when we come to the end, I've run effectively 4 beats in a bar. So the sevens get massaged into the longer framework, but they're
Huh.
still running at the same time. And doing this on a loop station, this was exciting. But the interesting thing is, this is something I'm working on a lot at the moment, is when you have a studio version of a piece of music, this is one thing. When you put it out live, it's
Hmm.
much better if you can make it as primary colored as possible, outlined in black Sharpie, each phrase, because the nuances that we spend ages working on in the studio very often will not translate fully in a live setting. And that's not because of the equipment or anything else. It's usually because of the size of the room, the PA system, how many people are
Ah.
in the hall. All these things affect how the sound is built.
Hmm.
So this is another thing I spend a lot of time working on is how to separate sounds, separate lines, all coming out of one stereo feed.
Huh.
How can we get this type of
Wow.
movement? So
I'm learning a lot of stuff, let me
yeah.
tell you. Because I'm not a musician. I love
Uh-huh.
music, but I
Yes.
all my pianos and guitars, it's decoration. It's my daughters play music. I listen.
Great.
I listen.
Great.
They play and I listen. So
Wonderful.
I knew I was gonna learn a lot today, and I'm learning. And my listeners, the musicians, they know more than myself about what she's talking about. I'm learning. I think I'm gonna have to take a class online with Jo.
Yeah, come to a class. It would be a pleasure.
I'll start from the beginning because I cannot.
It's
I'm
a,
learning a lot.
it's a great place to start.
Right? uh, I never seen you play live.
Uh,
I hope I can see her one day.
I
I've
would
seen
love to.
so
Yeah.
many videos I've seen about her online now,
Mm.
and it's a delight to see her play her instrument.
Well,
The
that's, I
way
mean,
the way she like undulates and sways her body. She weeps. I don't know. It's incredible to watch for me.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing. So if any of your listeners have any connections with booking agents, so I would love to come and play in America, but it's very, very difficult to get
Yes, because
here. So, you know,
you've been all over the world, Europe and
yes,
Australia and
yes,
Japan. I think you made it.
yes, that's right. Yes.
Yes, but I haven't seen anything in the United States. That's true. I haven't
No,
seen her.
nothing.
I'm probably only on vacation. She came to New York. I
I've
don't know.
never been. I've never
You've
been
never
at all.
been?
Never been to the States or to Canada.
That's
So,
unbelievable. I cannot
yes,
believe it. Not
yeah,
even a vacation?
no, no.
Oh, well, there's not much to see anyway.
I would love to come and play and
I'll carry
ha-
your starfish cello. I'll carry it for you. Don't worry, nobody's gonna steal it because it's for you probably something like a family thing. It's like
yeah.
imagine if it gets stolen.
Let's not.
That would be
Uh,
no, that would be great
mm.
to carry her stuff. But like I say, she's always like laser focus play on stage. And what I noticed also, she plays. I saw her sitting, but not too many times.
Mm.
So always standing up,
Mhm,
playing.
mhm,
Um, you got to do a lot of exercise because standing up for a couple of even an hour,
mhm.
you need to be in good shape. You gotta, don't your legs don't get tired of holding standing up is not like sitting a little bit. I don't know.
No, it's well, there's several reasons. So I don't know if you can see, you might not be able to see.
I
Put
see
it,
it
you can
over
see
there.
it there.
Yes, I do see it.
So he's standing on his stand at the
Oh,
moment. And my that stand was made for me by a blacksmith here in London, Kevin Boys, fabulous master craftsman. The
hmm,
stand is better for me if I'm on my own on a stage, which I am a lot of the time.
right.
Then it's easier for me to handle a stage standing up. It's just a personal preference. So if I'm performing, for example, when I performed at Hellfest, I was a soloist in front of
Oh,
7,000 metal fans. So
right.
I can go to a stage, stand up, be big and broad, occupy that space because I'm standing. Also, it's necessary for what I do with the looping and the multi-effects. So there's lots of
Okay.
pedals. Can't do it
Okay.
if I'm sitting down. But
Okay.
the point you made is very interesting, quite accurate, because actually, when you play the cello sitting down, we think that we are using our arms and our hands. We aren't. We're using our whole body. So when I teach cello, we're often talking about our back, our hips, our legs,
Right.
feet, jaw, neck, all these things. The same applies when you're playing standing up. The techniques that you can rely on when you're seated, you cannot rely on when you're standing. So shifts, for example, the way I prepare for a shift on the cello, or an octave from here to here,
Hmm.
seated is one way. Standing, the whole body needs to approach from a different way in order to make this shift. So
Hmm.
there was a lot of that is a part of playing which I've become more and more and more familiar with and comfortable with as the years have gone on. But
Hmm.
when I first started playing standing up, I didn't feel able to play anything other than basic stuff in what we call first position, which is down here on the neck.
Right.
So it was really interesting, Jose,
Yeah.
you know.
It's very physical. It's more physical than it
Yes,
appears when you
yes, it
look.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really it's unbelievable for me. It's not like you play the guitar and you go all over the stage moving from side to side. It has to be in a spot for you. You cannot
Yes.
move around much. Only,
No, I know.
use your feet and play the
Yeah,
pedals and stuff, but it's not like
yeah,
you can move around.
that's
Uh,
right.
yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
very, very interesting.
yeah.
And you keep pushing the boundaries of your cello. It's like you're trying to get this the I don't know how to say, but the all the sounds that come out of the cello, she's looking for even more sounds,
Yeah,
whatever she can get more out of it.
yeah.
So it's like like yeah, I don't know,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. What you
you
get?
know
I
what
know
I'm
what you're
saying?
doing there. Yeah. So
Yeah.
when with the acoustic cello, so I've got my acoustic. Just
Mm-hmm.
here's just there.
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
So this one, there's a lot of things we would call them extended techniques. So we learn how to play the cello and make a nice sound.
Right.
Then we learn, or we can explore the other possibilities of sound. So, for example, if you're using your bow very, very close to the bridge, you're going to get, depending on how you use it, you're going to get quite an abrasive sound, which
Right.
then, if you translate that technique onto the electric cello, if you use a little bit of delay and some reverbs, perhaps it's a little bit of sound modeling, you use that same technique, and suddenly you've got this very alien landscape of sound that's being created. And it's all
Right.
from essentially quite a simple technique on the cello, and one which is often told to people that it is the wrong way to play. It's wrong. It's wrong to play like that. But I say, no, it's not wrong. It's a sound. You use it when you need it. And so when I write pieces for acoustic cello, unlooped, unaccompanied acoustic cello, I'm
Yeah.
using lots of these types of techniques to get some color and some variety into the music, only when it's necessary, but they're there and they're available, so we must use them.
Right. You use all
Yeah.
of the yeah. I mean, the cello is being one of my major discoveries about
Ah,
because I always heard the acoustic cello, and there are some times that I use it. I heard electric cellos play, especially from some Japanese. I don't remember now some artists, but I never pay so much attention to the cello since I started listening to Joe's.
well,
I
that's
mean,
good.
yeah,
Yeah,
at my late age, I started now to know about the cello. Let me tell
good.
you.
Great, great. Oh, I'm really happy.
Yeah, still early. I mean, you still got time to
Oh, we
learn
we
more and
never
more about it.
we never stop learning, Jose. That's the thing.
Yeah,
We never ever stop learning, and that's all there is. It's brilliant.
yeah. How many times do you change your cello strings?
Oh God.
Every other month, or you change
Oh,
all of them, some of them, or
right. So I've got here, funnily enough, this is two strings. So I'm very lucky. There's a company called Daddario Orchestral who look after me for strings. And so the first answer to your question is I change them only when it's necessary, which is not like a guitar. So guitar, some of the guitarists I tour with would change their strings before every performance. I will change my cello strings probably 3 weeks before I begin a tour, and then I will leave them on for as long as I possibly can. What does happen, because I use a lot of what's called scordatura, which is basically pulling the strings, lowering and raising.
right?
So
Hmm.
this stretches the string. So because I get through strings this way more frequently on my acoustic cello, they will stay on there for a year or more,
Okay.
unless they get dirty or the string becomes dull, but because they're hundreds of pounds for a set. So Daddario, I have a performance requirement coming up using the bottom two strings as scordatura, so they're tuned down a whole step. And I ask them, do you have heavyweight strings? Because I need these strings to tune down,
Okay.
which obviously alters the whole way that the cello has been set up, even on the electric, because the physics, everything is calculated. The tonnage of pressure that is on the bridge, the fingerboard, everything else, this changes when you begin to move your strings. So I need strings that will
Hmm.
stay on there and they will stay in tune. So this is what I'm actually going to change this afternoon. The
Okay.
bottom two strings on that cello for these
Huh.
Kaplan heavy gauges,
Wait,
and then play hard on them and see if they stay in tune,
hmm.
which I believe they will.
Are these you're talking about steel chords
Yeah, they
strings,
are.
right?
Yeah,
No
yeah.
God strings, right?
No,
No,
no, no,
no,
no.
no, 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 impossible.
They're they're the same. These are actually for uh acoustic instruments. So the strings, these are very, very nice strings. They are Daddario's equivalent of like the Parastro Perpetuals, or I mean some of the other string people that I've worked with in the past. These are very nice
Hmm.
strings. They have a big projection. Even though I'm playing an electric cello in this capacity, I
Hmm.
must still have, I can't have cheap, bad strings. The sound, it matters. It really matters. And you
Of
wouldn't think it
course.
because there's no body, obviously, no resonant body on the instrument, but it's still the way the string behaves is very,
Hmm.
it varies greatly from
Does it,
brand to brand.
does it, is there with the, are there any changes in the performance with the, depending with the temperature or no? Like if it's too hot or too cold or?
Ish. Yeah, it can. I mean, cold is horrible. Cold
Hmm.
and too hot is horrible as well. But the strings, you can find that you slip out of tune. I noticed that more on the acoustic cello, actually.
Hmm.
The electric cello, because the top of the where we tune up has got machine heads like a bass guitar,
Right.
whereas my acoustic cello has 200-year-old wooden pins. So,
Okay.
we have that wood, it's fallacy to think that wood stops doing anything when it's cut from the
Right.
tree because it moves and it
Expands. Yeah.
breathes,
Expands
expands,
and
contracts all the time.
yeah. Hmm.
Whereas with metal machine heads, it's also much quicker if we are out of tune to just pull it back in. If the string has slipped, I can hear it instantly, obviously, and so I just pull the string back in again.
Hmm.
Um, so there are several videos on YouTube where I'm in the middle of a piece and I'll just do something that looks like some very nice open strings, but it's because I know something's come out and I've got to find it in the middle of the piece. Oh dear.
Uh, that's amazing. Now that we're talking about the cello and setting up, how long does it take you to set up your instruments, or your little your gadgets and pedals every time you go on stage? How long does it take?
That's quick. That's very quick
Quick,
because I just have two pedals now, thanks to the technology in the RC600, the loop station. So I use GT1000 multi-effects,
right?
stereo in and stereo out of that into the RC600 loop station, stereo out of that to front of house, and I take the headphone output for my monitoring, and I'm able to that the RC600 has a mixing desk built in, so I can have the loops at different level than you
Hmm,
get front of house. I have a click track that you don't get front of house and all these sorts of things. So basically it's like 5 minutes on, five
hmm,
minutes off. It's super quick,
hmm.
thankfully.
So when you move around, when you go to all the different venues and stages, what type of vehicle do you use to carry all that? Just a regular, like a van, or everything
So
fits?
normally, it depends how long the tour is. So I just did a tour in November where it was a headline tour, and obviously we had a lot of merchandise, so we needed to take a van for that, a six-seater
Okay.
van. But
Hmm.
usually, if I'm going, say I go to Manchester to play a gig here at home, well, I'll go in my car. It's easy because I've got a Skoda Roomster, which has got a big
Okay.
back end. So I also travel usually with two sculptures as well, which were also made by my blacksmith, these whirling pieces of metal. And we can
Right.
actually get everything in the car, but this is largely due to the skills of Alan Pride, who does my tour management and sort of logistics and stuff, because that man can pack a vehicle like I've never seen anyone pack a vehicle. It's like if there was an Olympic sport for vehicle packing, he would be a gold medalist.
Yeah, that's uh that's funny. Yeah. You Being on tour, we're gonna talk about her new musical project. It's called Invocation
Yeah.
Supplication. We're gonna talk about that. So much, so many stuff, so much stuff. I don't know. I don't know where to go next. I just listened to a song from a Norwegian band, Enslaved.
Oh yeah.
Is that the last project you made with any bands? Because there are so many that I listen to. Is this the last one or no? Because I listened
No,
like a couple days ago to a song called
uh
"Forest Dweller."
Forest Dweller. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, is this one of the newest, or was done
Yeah.
a long time ago?
No, it was a very recent one. So that was last year in March last year,
Hmm.
2023. Enslaved invited me to perform a concert for them when they were doing an album launch, and also to join them on stage and play two tracks with them. So
Okay.
which I did, and it was wonderful. It was over in Bergen. We had a great time. Lovely, wonderful band, very, very highly skillful
Yeah.
people, but also very nice people as well, which is lovely. Anyway, so I wrote these parts for Forest Dweller and another track, and then after the concert, a couple of weeks later, they asked would I record them because they had an idea to do a
Okay.
deluxe album. So the album cycle, I mean, albums will take a minimum of a year between the concept and the delivery of the final thing. That's if you've got the stuff recorded
Of
already.
course. Hmm.
So in their case, it was re-recording some stuff, remixing some stuff, adding other guest people in and out, you know. So
Hmm.
that came out yesterday or the day before yesterday, I
Yeah,
think.
I heard it
Um,
a couple days ago. Yes.
yeah, so that's
Hmm.
there will be another one out from them at the same time, which was pretty bad timing. Another track that I'd collaborated on also came out. So I have to plan in these instances, I have to plan how to do the PR. So because Enslaved had a PR schedule that was set. So this is good. So we've gone with that one. But in a couple of days' time, you will see
Hmm.
some information about another collaboration I've done with a very different artist and an Iranian dancer. And so that will come
Oh,
out
really?
as well. Yeah.
Well, you get
So
so many requests, I guess, from
yes.
many artists. But
Yeah.
I
It's
have
a
a
privilege.
little off question. Once you have committed to these projects,
Yeah.
probably months, weeks, months in advance, right?
Yeah.
And you have to once you get to it's like an obligation after that. You have to show up or whatever you have to do.
Yeah.
Is there times like you wake up in the morning and you look outside and you say it's a beautiful day outside. I want to maybe go for a walk. I don't know. Go with my family, spend some time, some couple hours with them. But I have this, I have to do with this band or with this artist. And I'm like, oh man, I don't feel like I have to do it. But today are there days that you just don't want to do these commitments, like
Do you know,
things
it's
that, and once you get into it and you do it, then you're happy and you know you are a
uh,
professional, so you really enjoyed it. But are there times like you feel like, man, I wish I could do this instead of that, you know?
well, you know, so two things. First thing is you remind me of a tour manager, very that's a front of house man, very, very close to my heart, where he says, it's a lovely day, just right for 10 hours in the van, you know, because that's normally what happens on tour. Anyway, to answer your question, I work on my own agenda. So if I wake up in the morning
Hmm.
and it's a beautiful day, and Isla, my daughter, and I want to go to the woods, to the seaside, we will go. And
Okay.
then a lot of the time I work into the evenings. So when I take sessions on these
Hmm.
days, before I take the session on, I
Hmm.
ask the artist or the producer, what is the time frame, hard deadline, and
Okay.
what are you asking me to do? Are you asking me to play dots on a page that someone has written, or are you asking me to write parts? Are you going to change the arrangements? What? So I know a lot of information. It's very flattering because a lot of the time people ask me because they want me to do my stuff. They just say, we don't know, just do
Yeah.
Joe, you
Do
know.
what you love doing.
Yeah, yeah. But to be honest with you, very honest, I more frequently, unfortunately, have to say no to projects because my own work schedule is huge as well.
Of course.
So I have, for example, at the moment, I have an album that I'm finishing, not mine, it's for a great post-rock band. I've been very heavily involved in every single track. That they are my priority. Then there's a couple of other things, but there are a few things that unfortunately I can't do. Luckily, I have two very, very great cellists that I have no hesitation to say to my clients, I cannot help you, but
Oh,
here, you know, speak with this girl. She's phenomenal. And so it's a very nice position to be in, you know, to be
oh,
able to do that. So
very, very interesting.
mm,
I know you're very devotional to your music. Um, how many hours do you practice? Do
oh
you
my
practice
God.
every day? Are you the type
Yeah,
that
but
plays
not
every
enough.
day?
Yeah, I do because I want to and I love playing and it's if but practicing, I mean, if I'm preparing for a tour and I've got new pieces in there, then I practice like as much as I can. Funnily enough, though, I mean, this is being very honest with you, but if you work as a freelance musician, then
Hmm.
playing your instrument is usually the last thing that you're able to do each day because there's so much other stuff with PR, social media, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah. And so actually sitting down and playing the cello for me, what I do now is it is the first thing I do after my daughter's gone to school. And
Hmm.
before anything else happens, I will sit down and I will play my cello. Um, I could play for hours every day. I don't play for hours every day because I don't have enough time and with everything else. But what I do know is that you can be very efficient. You can get more done in, say, 4 lots of 20 minutes through a day than you
Okay.
could if you said, I've got 4 hours to practice. I don't think I'd make good use of that. If I know I've got 20 minutes here, 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 and here, I will do solid work with that. And
Yeah.
so that, but I have to play every day because otherwise I don't feel well in my head, you
Somebody told
know?
me about the same thing. They will do
Yes.
like 20, 30 minutes. Hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's
But that's
interesting.
because we've spent probably since a very, very young age consistently playing, doing the same thing. So if you counted up the hours and hours I've spent playing the cello, I mean, the reason I can get away with 20 minutes 4 times a day is because I've spent the last like 40 years doing it, you know. I
Do
don't
you
know.
do you play more at the daylight or at dark? Are you like an early morning person?
I have 2 days in every day. So I get up very early in the morning and then I
Hmm.
work. And that's usually on acoustic cello and arrangements and stuff. Then I have a sit down in the afternoon, quite happy to admit that. And I might watch a bit of telly or I might prepare the evening meal. My daughter
Hmm.
comes home, we have the evening time, and she goes to bed and I start again. So basically, I go to
Okay.
bed late, I wake up early, but I also take a chunk out of the
Oh
middle of the
boy.
day to rest. So it's like and in the evening,
Yeah.
I find is when I can work really well if I'm creating. Um, I
Hmm.
have the evenings, the darkness is good for that.
It's good for that. I've been listening to all her albums, Caldera, Exalt, everything, Five Incantations, like she mentioned before, the cartographer, which is a beautiful. I enjoy just the cartographer. For me, it's just the name.
Mm.
Just by thinking of the guy making, I don't know,
Yes.
maps and charts.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Just the title,
Thank you.
but I've been listening. I mean, it's hard to listen to Joe's music in the beach. Let me tell you, it's not like a happy time that you going to the Caribbean, going to an island
No,
and listening to Joe. It doesn't work for me. I gotta be
no.
by, especially like more individual listening for me. I cannot
Mm-hmm.
listen to her music with some other guy sitting next to me. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work. I
Mm-hmm.
gotta be by myself and in a quiet place. I don't need. I cannot hear like an ambulance going through or something, or a plane, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
very noisy things around me. I cannot listen. You gotta be in a quiet place. Especially some of them, you got especially no lights. For
Yes,
me,
yes,
it
yes,
helps a lot. If the
yes,
sunshine in front of my face doesn't help, I need to
yes.
be in a stage of I don't know how to,
Yeah,
you know what
that's
I'm
cool.
saying.
I do. That's really cool. I
Yeah,
like that.
but that's how it is with some artists for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed all her records. So much stuff that to listen to, and you sometimes you spend more times like doing, repeating a couple of those
Mm-hmm.
compositions, which some you love more than the others, or some
Mm-hmm.
days you like more this
Yes, it depends, doesn't
than the
it?
other day. So it's
Mm.
so it's been a very learning experience for me to
Mm.
listen to Joe's music. Uh, so much stuff. I think you've been touring since December with a great guitarist,
John Gong.
John. Great
Yeah.
guitar, fantastic.
Yes.
You were like the opening act, right?
No,
For
no, no, no.
no,
It was
how
a
did it? It was
co-headline tour. So
us.
we took it
Okay.
in turns each night as to who would go first and who would play second. It was
Oh,
a very
okay.
nice tour because my audience really enjoyed John's music, even though it's very different. John's audience very much appreciated what I was doing. So we had um, the last two concerts we did in London and Leeds a couple of weeks
R-
ago, we
right.
had full house through each night for both of us. We are both pushing at the boundaries of our instruments. We're both pretty down to
Right.
earth people, and we both do basically weird things.
Of
So,
course. Yes.
it
It's a
it
great match.
appealed
Yeah.
across. Yes, thank you. It was a very
Yeah.
good match. It would be very nice. We have one more concert in Manchester, but I'm hoping that we can schedule some more dates together because that
Yeah.
would be very, very special.
Yeah, it was wonderul. When I
Thank you.
saw a couple, I knew about him uh,
Mm.
there is a guitarist that it reminded me from the 80s, and now I don't remember. He passed away. I don't remember. Hedges, something.
Mhm.
Michael Hedges? I don't remember. From California. There is a way that he was playing also, which
Mhm.
was very familiar.
Mhm.
So it's a great guitarist. It was called the Parallel World
That's right.
tour.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what we were wanting to explain. Parallel worlds. That's exactly what we're doing.
right.
We're operating together
Yeah,
like this, but in very different ways.
yeah. It's like great master musicians doing their line of work.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
so that was a happy concert, a happy tour for you, I guess.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
enjoyed
it's
it a
good.
lot.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. I enjoy all the tours that I do.
Enjoy.
The tour a lot with Emma Ruth Rundle, of course. Toured a
Yes,
lot with
yes.
very
First
different
time.
artists. Mm.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Emma. So
Yes.
I think I told her I had no idea who she was, like I said, like 3 months ago. But
Mm.
then I noticed one of the videos I saw with Emma, and she was playing the cello. I didn't know who she was. Then it's the one that
It's the one on the album.
that's the one in the album. Oh, you know. So it
That's
is.
great.
It
Good.
was okay. Uh,
Yeah.
so you're gonna be touring also in the coming months, right? You're gonna be doing some shows also,
I've got
or
some shows, so I'm not touring, but I've got some shows.
some
It's
shows.
interesting. You mentioned invocation and supplication. So, well,
Yeah.
first of all, I've got a few concerts. I've got Inferno Metal Festival in Norway, which will be very, very nice.
Oh, okay.
And then in May, I'm performing Supplication, which is the half of the record with Lorenzo Esposito Fonassari. So
Yeah.
this record was two sets of three-song cycles, and one set I wrote for Maria Franz from Heilung, and the other one for Lorenzo, for Lef, as we call him.
Right.
So in May, I'm performing the Supplication with Lef, and I have a 40-piece symphonic wind orchestra
Yeah.
and percussion, and we're playing this whole record fully orchestrated in a
Yeah.
theatre in
As you
Belgium.
know, I had a question. We're gonna go back to that, but I had a question regarding the maestro conductor,
Yes.
Josh Pineapple. How do you say
Yeah,
it?
Pineapple.
Pineapple.
Mhm, mhm,
Incredible. I cannot figure it out. I
mhm.
was waiting for her to say it because I was gonna destroy it. So,
It's all right.
when was the first time you met him? He's very looks like a very interesting person to me.
He's my best friend. He's a wonderful man. I met him at university, so we were
Oh,
19 and 22, so as years and years ago, and we always got on really well. And he's very busy as orchestrator and conductor. He's also a great
right.
viola player, violin player too. But we always stayed in touch. And then he always got the side of things, the slightly kind of left of center side of things that I was doing. He understood it. And so the very first thing that he was involved in with me was a performance with uh, Kapella Gardnensis in Poland. So it was a Polish chamber orchestra and choir, and I wrote a piece of music for them called This Path of Grace, and Jos came and conducted it. And then we
Oh,
worked together in other settings. So he joined me. I put him in my quartet when we played with At the Gates and when we played for Mono.
oh, okay.
And then so when I worked with him as conductor, then of course he was the conductor for the cartographer,
Okay.
and it's
Yes.
it's the working relationship I have with him is such that I could not imagine undertaking any of these projects with anybody other than him because he's a brave and a generous musician. But also when I write, for
Hmm.
example, with the cartographer, the last
Right.
movement, we have a brass, lots of stuff happens, then there's a big brass chorale, and then the
Right.
whole ensemble comes in. And at that moment in time, I will start the loop station because we have the click track from there
Hmm.
and there's no pre-roll and Jos will have the click as well and we start bang and that's the downbeat and we're not only that but we're in 13/8 which is quite a tricky time signature to work in. So Jos is the only man I know, the only conductor I know who is brave enough
Hmm.
to in front of 4,000 people to say yes, I can start this at the right time with you and we know each other so well, it's very
Ah,
very easy to work together. So
yeah.
he's a great man.
Great man. When I listened to the cartographer, that was you were commissioned by the Roadburn Festival in
That's right.
the
Yeah.
Netherlands.
Mhm.
This is it takes a festival that takes place every year, right?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
The month of April. That's
Yes.
interesting. And the cartographer, you play at the in 2022. That was
Yeah,
the
that's
premiere of
right.
that. Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, they commissioned it in 2019, but obviously nothing happened for a few years,
Right.
So the premiere was moved to 2022. In that intervening period of time, I was able to go and record it though, and I got some support from PRS Music Foundation here, so I could record it, which was great because had we just gone straight into the premiere in 2020, we wouldn't have had a recording of it. And so actually, I didn't change the score, but the 2 years hiatus meant that I could actually get the thing recorded. So
Mm.
and that's now there it is available for all.
Yeah, it's a for me. It was very cinematic.
Thank
Really
you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Very emotional and sentimental for me.
Yes. Oh,
It
good.
was a great experience. The, those five movements.
Thank you.
A single piece, but it's divided for I guess
Yes,
five
that's
movements,
right. Yeah.
and the brass, like she was mentioning, the
Yeah.
crossbones,
Eight
trombone,
trombones.
ensemble. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
it was
Crossbones.
beautiful. I really
They're
enjoyed it.
brilliant. Thank you.
I was feeling like it was left to my imagination and fantasy just listening to that very absorbing record.
Thank
Uh,
you.
yeah, those beautiful. I don't know, so much stuff. Beautiful waves of sounds.
Uh,
They dig deep into me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
super.
It's a great
Thank you.
record to listen. I mean, if you never heard of Joe's music, I don't know. I don't know which one should be the first album
I
you could
don't, I
listen to.
wouldn't I wouldn't
I don't
start with the
know.
cartographer.
I wouldn't start with the. I was gonna say maybe you should
No.
leave that for later. I don't know.
Yes. I'll tell you what, if
I don't
people are
know.
curious, I think
Yeah,
I think I would say that Gold is probably a good
a
track
good
to
start.
start with. Yeah, because it's very, very passionate piece of music, but it's quite a sensible introduction. It's not particularly atonal, and I can get quite atonal at times. So it's a nice way in.
It's a nice way. I don't. I started with the cartographer.
Yeah,
For me was great because
that's
for
fine.
me it's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, good.
I mean, you could go and listen to the other storm, other
Yes,
storm.
Adderstone, yes.
Yeah, that's a beautiful
Yeah,
song. You could start.
thank you. Yeah, that's not a bad start
That's not a
place,
bad
actually.
start.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a nice video. Also, it's a very nice video. Let me tell you,
I did. It was
it
very
was well
cold when we
made.
shot that video. Yes, it was very well made. Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Richard Wakefield, he's brilliant. It costs quite a lot of money to make a video well, so that's why I don't make them very often because
Right.
there isn't no budget. I would love to have made one for invocation and supplication, but there was no budget to make a video. So
Maybe
well,
next.
okay, next time, yeah.
Next time. There is a song there from Caldera called Loris. I think it is
Loris, yes.
Loris. Is that based on a book on the or no?
No,
No, okay.
it's no, the track itself is not based on a book. It's yeah, it's
Yeah, I like that song. Well,
thank
there's
you.
so many of them. I don't know. Like I say, I don't know. I don't know which one I will suggest, but like those two songs probably are good for some of my audience to start with.
Great. Yes, good.
I think
Good.
so.
Thank you.
Why not?
Mhm.
Take a chance. Take a chance. Like I said, she's been playing with so many artists. If you type her name, Jo Quail,
Mhm.
like I told a friend of mine, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm going to interview this great musician," and they're like, I spoke with a friend of mine who's just like a very classical guy, very Beethoven fan. He
Lovely.
loves Beethoven. He's
Yeah,
like,
super.
and he's like, ask her does she think about Beethoven? I said, I'm not going to ask her, but it has nothing to do with what she has something to do with what she does. But what is she going to say? It's a terrible composer. I don't really like it. She's going to say it's a great composer. So and I'm asking her now, just for my friend. I don't know. I'm a good guy, so I got to ask her. What's your opinion of Beethoven? I don't know. I just
I
out of the
mean,
blue, I don't know. Just to make him happy.
such such a fascinating era of music. If you look, I mean, you can chart so much development if you look through Beethoven, the work of Beethoven, some of the quartets, the late quartets. Oh my God, to play them is beautiful. Not easy, but absolutely stunning. The symphonies. I mean, he's crossing, moving across what we now, with hindsight, would say are periods of music, periods of
Mm-hmm.
classical music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the weight of some of his later symphonies, anyway, that weight is something that I was really keen to try in my way to replicate the weight of that sound,
Hmm.
especially in the cartographer. Is a very interesting point because Beethoven is case in point where heavy music is not defined by amplification or by volume. In fact, I mean, moving backwards from that, you could say that the Bach C minor cello
Oh,
suite,
okay.
for
Mm-hmm.
me, that is one of the heaviest pieces of music, particularly that opening, extremely heavy. It's one cello playing one note, but it's heaviness is this is what I explored with Roadburn's commission. So heaviness in music, because I play
Mm.
in metal festivals or classical music, doesn't matter. I play all over the place, but
Right.
all of the same thing is happening, which is that what we're talking about is weight and intensity, and the intensity of the composer, the intention of the composer, the intensity of the orchestration, the delivery, the performance delivery. That's heavy music. Heavy music isn't about how fast, slow, pitch, speed, any of these
Mm-hmm.
things at all. It's Old MacDonald Had a Farm can be very loud and very fast, but that doesn't make it heavy.
Right, right, right.
Whereas that one single note that's dropped like that, like a dead weight into an
Hmm.
absolute thick pool of silence or a drone or something, that's heavy music.
Hmm.
That's what you're
Interesting.
describing when you're talking about dark, no lights on, or being by yourself. Is a, being able to immerse yourself into this, and that's what you can do with the work of Beethoven, and Mahler, or any of these other
Hmm.
colossal
Right.
greats.
That will make him happy just to hear
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
That will make
glad.
him
I'm glad.
because he's always telling me, oh, he was a man ahead of his times. I say,
I believe so
really?
very
Yeah,
much. I
yeah.
believe, but all of the greats, you see, we can
Hmm.
look back now and say this about them. I mean, don't forget when the Magic Flute, Mozart, when the Magic Flute was premiered, nobody liked it.
Right.
People were walking out, oh, it's too long, it's too many notes. That's it. People, I expect at the first moment when music moved from being, well, in the history of music, we're not talking about uh, early cave, stuff, but the history,
Right.
church, choral music, religious music, and then the split between that and sort of the madrigals of non-sacred music. And
Hmm.
then at the moment that the augmented fourth started to creep in, the forbidden interval, suddenly this was a game changer, absolute
Hmm.
game changer. And so
Hmm.
it goes on all through history in music. There have been moments which have been game changers, which were completely and utterly rejected by the people at that time. And it's only afterwards that you can see, my God, thank heavens that they did that, because now we have Schoenberg or 12 tone, whatever, and that all was because one person at some point thought that it was okay suddenly to use the augmented fourth. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that was a bit of a kind of whitewash of the history of music there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very
You tell your
interesting.
friend that.
I love it. I love. I read it. I'm going all over the place. I have to apologize because I'm jumping from one thing to the other
It's
because
all
there are
right.
so much stuff that you do. We could talk about all the collaborations with, with Mono, like she mentioned, and some Indian, also
Yeah,
multi instrumentalist from
yeah.
India. Arka sorry, I couldn't say his last name. Segupta, I think.
Uh,
Arka
there's
Segupta. Is that what his name
so
is?
so there have been I've done quite a few collaborations with um multi-instrumentalists and people all over the place, all
Yes.
over the world. There's
So many. Yeah,
yes, I
like
know.
God is an astronaut. That beautiful, that great band from Ireland. I love that band.
Oh,
The
I'm
post
glad you
rock
do.
band.
Good. Yeah.
I love that band. Oh, it's so much stuff. I don't know. You're
They're
keeping me
lovely to
busy,
work
Joe.
with.
You're keeping me busy lately. I have to go all over the listening to new.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Somebody
I'm.
did ask to me. They said once, do I have a catalogue of all of the collaborations I've done?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I don't. I'm really
Yeah.
sorry. But if anybody wants to put one together, I'd be really grateful.
There's so much stuff she does, and she's always busy. Even crocheting. I don't know. I'm like showing my wife. She crochets a shawl or something.
Yes, I love
Because
crochet.
my wife loves knitting.
Oh, does she?
She
Ah,
does
yeah.
sweaters for me and
Ah,
scarves and stuff.
beautiful.
So she's like, I'm interviewing Jo, but she also does crocheting. What?
Mm.
Yeah, she does that. She does everything. I don't know. Maybe she's
Well,
a great cook also. I don't know. I don't know if she cooks.
I am a good cook.
A good
Yeah,
cook. I
I
don't know.
I enjoy cooking very, very much indeed. But these are all things. It's the same thing. It's creating, isn't it? So whether it's
Cooking is
crochet, so
creating, right?
it is creating. And you can put invest as much love and energy and yes,
Right.
energy into the what you cook as what you play music. And I
Yeah.
mean, everyone has to eat, don't they? So
Right.
why not? Let's make it be nice. It's a time we sit together and
Yeah.
you know,
Especially when you cook, you got so many different things that you can add.
yes,
like to a stew. I don't
precisely.
know. You can add a little pepper, a little hot spices, or you
Yes,
can
exactly.
remove you can
Yeah,
do so many things, so many
ah,
combinations. Sometimes it's
precisely.
like cooking. It comes out really bad. It tastes horrible. And sometimes you do music and the same thing happens. So you gotta
Exactly.
choose the right ingredients, I guess.
You do. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's very interesting.
Mm.
Let's talk about so much stuff. I want to talk about her newest project,
Right.
Invocation and Supplication,
Yes.
which for me is, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe she has to do it for me.
Mm.
There is a big difference in listening to invocation or supplication, I think.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Both are great, um, but it reminds me when I listen, I don't know how to say it. I'm like crying for help. I have no idea. Like you are in a purgatory, like in the Christian beliefs, or like you are in the
Yeah.
middle, in between heaven and hell. I don't know.
Well,
Explain
that's
to me,
very
please.
interesting. So invocation and supplication, I mentioned this earlier. They are two three-song cycles, and
Right.
invocation was written for Maria Franz, who is very this and invocation is a very earthy and sort of primal series of songs. Supplication was written for Lef. Supplication is they're two sides of the same coin, and
Okay.
I talk about this in the sleeve notes, but they're, if you like, the sort of pagan versus the Orthodox religious side. I don't have a religion, the traditional religion, but I have great
Right.
respect for religion and for the concept of
Hmm.
deities, so I understand this. When I wrote so both of them are with Maria, with Invocation, it's very much like the divine feminine archetype, if you like. And Macha, the first track, I mean, she's a
Right. Hmm.
warrior queen, the first Celtic warrior queen.
Right.
We have basically maiden, mother, and crone are bound up within Invocation. With Supplication, it's much more of a journey. We have the calling, Maestoso and Kyrillaste. It's as though one gets closer to seeing the face of God, if you like, through that's what somebody said to me. I did not intend to do this, but
Right.
somebody said this to me in their review of it, and I understand what they mean because it's impact. Left sings it's very it, it's you're held in this state. I mean, musically speaking, we don't even cadence till right at the end of the third movement. So it's holding in this state, in this key, where
Hmm.
different things are explored, and moving around. And then his baritone voice so beautiful, and he
Ye-
soars like a
Yeah.
great cry
Like a
out.
cry.
And
Yes.
yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
working with him. He interpreted what I had written for him with such power. Because when you're writing and you do mock-ups and you're using general MIDI, or perhaps slightly better, you're using East West or you're using BBC SO, but you're not hearing things as they truly will be. And
Hmm.
then, so I was working with these mock-ups that I'd created for ages, and then Left sent his vocal back to me, and it was like, oh my God. And the same when I recorded Maria, I went to Lava Studios. Christopher Yule recorded Maria for me. And the pieces are set on fire when you have these vocalists of this
Did,
caliber. Phenomenal.
did you have a good time creating these compositions? Like enjoy them or
Yeah, I love them. I mean,
yeah.
both of them were created actually during this from 2020 and over a period of about 18 months.
Hmm.
I had no, it was very, I had no embargo because there were no concerts, you see. So
Right.
I couldn't perform a concert. So therefore, I wrote exactly what I wanted to write. So I just finished writing the cartographer and I just kept going from there. So Invocation has got French horn, trombones, loads and loads of
Yeah,
percussion.
very
It's got a
orchestral.
choir.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
very
huge.
orchestral. Yeah.
The interesting thing is that every single thing was recorded at home,
Hmm.
or in people's houses. Everybody who was kind of high up on the in the music food chain said, "Oh, you can't do that. I think you must you need to really you need to be in a studio with a choir, you know." And I was like, "Oh well, thanks very much. I don't believe you." And I was right. You can do everything. You don't have to be in a studio. Yes, it's very nice to be in a big studio, of course it is, but it's not necessary. My choir, they sent
Hmm.
their syllables on mobile phones to me, and I made the choir out of them. That's what you hear on the record is people who
Hmm.
sang into their mobile phones, no more than that.
Wow.
And I built a choir. So it was this real very freeing experience. And of course, then when it came to left CPs, if they were running at the same time, being composed simultaneously, and then
Hmm.
supplication, much more intimate affair by rights, because so it should be. We had
Right.
the very broad outward facing one, then the inward facing one.
Hmm.
And just working, and really for that one, the movement, the harmonic movement was very simple and I wanted to explore these slow and simple
Hmm.
movements of sound. And that's so I was doing two things at the same time, completely different things.
So
It
I
was,
was gonna say,
yeah.
does it have anything to do? Is there a connection with the pandemic? For some have
No,
nothing to do with
I'll
that.
tell you what was the one that you might be referring to, the one that was connected to the pandemic is a piece of music that's only available. Oh, it's on Bandcamp, but on YouTube, it's called the Parados Cairn, Cairn.
Okay.
That was the piece of music that was very
Okay.
important for me. So this piece of music I created in the early months of 2020, and I asked people to send me
Ah, okay.
sound on their mobile phone. And from this piece, from all their sounds, we got 167 sounds from all across the world, people
Ah,
sent in, and I created an entire piece of music out of all these sounds.
ah,
That was so that is it, it was so important, Jose, so important to me to write that piece, not write it,
ah.
to produce that piece of music. And it was very important, it turns out, to the people who had sent the sounds, because I would do little updates
Hmm.
as we were going along. And people felt at a time when we were all completely cut off from one another, this
Right.
was something which was bringing us together, albeit online, but it was bringing us together. So
Hmm.
musically, I think the Parados Ken actually is the most important piece I've ever put together. And it's the one I didn't play a single note on, but it's
Hmm.
the one that started many processes for me, but will remain at forever
Hmm.
a captured moment in time of that time, you
Ah,
know?
I just have a question regarding the pandemic. Just one question for you. Did you during the pandemic? Did you feel like your musical accomplishment didn't have the same value that you thought? Like they
Yeah,
were.
100%. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
alone in this because when the pandemic came, everything I thought that I stood for and everything I thought I was just was not there. You know, I mean, as far as I was concerned, I was a touring artist. What
Hmm.
was important, and I know this is for a fact, what is important is for me is to be able to play concerts, share time, share space with people. That was
Right.
not possible. Obviously there was a long period of time where creativity was impossible. Playing the cello was impossible for me, which is why, again,
Hmm.
I refer back to the Paradox Chem. That was why I did that because I was not able to do anything that I would normally do.
So you
So
took your creativity really suffer at that time. Like,
kind of, yes and no.
yeah.
It did suffer, but on the other hand,
Hmm.
when I started to put the Parados together, a whole new
Okay.
world of creativity opened up to me because I had previous to that, I'd never been so fully involved in production and
Ah.
sound design as well, things like that. And so that
Oh,
side then
okay.
opened up, which then, of course, fed into what I did with invocation and supplication.
Ah, so you
So
learn like a lot of different other methods of
that's
composition, I
correct.
guess, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Probably maybe music software and stuff like that, or new
Exactly,
techniques and
exactly. I
stuff.
mean, I'd
Yeah.
started to learn Cubase inside out. I learned a lot about production. Not
Huh.
saying I'm a brilliant producer now, but I'm certainly a lot better than I was back then.
So you're gonna get more requests then. If you're like a producer, then you're gonna get more work even.
I would love to. What I'd like
Right?
to do, I'd
Produce.
like to be an executive producer for some people because I mean, I'm not an engineer, so I wouldn't want to sit in a studio and say to somebody, I'm going to, engineer you. But in terms of production, I have lots and lots of ideas that I'd love to explore.
Hmm.
When I listen to people's records, I think, oh, that was brilliant. I'd love to talk about that with them. Or, oh, I could hear something just in that bit there. Or I wonder if they thought about, oh, this mix. I
Right.
wonder what it would be if we brought this to the fore, stuff like that. So it's what I do in my own work. But, I mean, it's a very deeply personal thing, production. So I think you have to,
Hmm.
you need to work closely with the people that you produce,
Right.
or that, for me, the people that work alongside me as producers are I mean, I'm a control freak about my production, so I will ask somebody to come in because I do not know how to do what I want it to do. So,
Right.
and then they come in, and then they will often have great ideas, and that's brilliant, and we take it even further. But I have to say I have a very firm hand on
Hmm.
the steering wheel. So
uh,
yeah.
yeah. Regarding
Oh,
invocation supplication, there are songs that I really enjoy most.
yes.
Willow of all, I
Oh,
really that
yes.
one love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
It
That's interesting.
like
Compositionally, that's
clears my mind when I
does
listen. It just
it?
yes, it clear.
This
It,
is nice. No, maybe because so this is very interesting. Again, Willow of All, uh, she is a beautiful singer, and from a technical point of view, what's interesting with Willow of All is it's built on a whole tone scale, so the intervals are open. So perhaps what you're feeling is
uh,
hearing you're hearing the openness, and also at every
right.
point that we cadence, we move down. So your listeners will be familiar. We move down effectively in a whole tone scale. It's not as straightforward as that, but that's what we're doing. And so each point we cadence down a
Hmm.
tone, but it continues. You see, it's constant cadencing. So we're going deeper and deeper, opening further this
Right.
sound world. Uh,
That explains it a
maybe
little
this is
for
what you
me.
like. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
really. No, they are. The track also maestoso. Is that how you say
Maestoso
it?
is huge,
Maestoso. I
isn't
say it
it?
in Spanish. Maestoso.
Yeah. Maestoso is very
It's
nice.
a fantastic piece.
Oh, thank you.
It's
It's
very dreamy, like I don't know, blissful. I guess we could say. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
It's
It
very.
was when I wrote that particular one, it's probably, you can probably tell, but I just finished making an arrangement. It's on Bandcamp of Thomas Tallis motet
Uh,
Agnus Dei, and so I was dealing with a lot of parallel rhythmic movements and early kind of choral music. And I think it just fed into that. But that piece did exactly what I've always wanted a piece like that to do. And that one nailed it. So
so how can you say that all these tracks came from the inner thinking of you, like more
yeah,
inner part, your
100%.
interior, more than
Yeah.
the outside, more
Yes.
than the external factors, more
Yes.
from the inside, right?
Yes, deeply so. Yeah.
Deeply. Yeah, I could feel it. It's like I don't know.
I'm
It's very intense.
so glad you enjoyed it. I'm
I
so
really
glad.
did.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you so much.
and I really think my listeners should take a listen. But
I
don't,
hope they enjoy it. I really hope they
yeah,
do.
yeah. Start with the lighter songs, the lighter
Yes.
like we
Start
mentioned.
with gold, start with
Yeah, start with
Adderstone.
goal. Don't jump into those.
Maybe, yeah,
Don't,
make your way to my
yeah,
Stoso, and then
you
yeah.
gotta walk, cut the brushes a little
Yeah.
bit, and start the walking a little bit. I don't know how to I'm going
No,
crazy.
that's
I don't know
great.
what I'm saying.
That's great. Listen, it's such a pleasure to chat with you. I'm going to have to go because my daughter is coming back
Of
home any
course,
minute now. But it was
not a problem. I really enjoyed it. I know we're taking so much time. It's my fault. I'm
it's
sorry.
it's
I'm
no,
sorry.
it's a pleasure. It's a
It's a
pleasure.
pleasure.
Thank you.
This was a pleasure talking to Joe about all these things. I wish maybe next time we'll have another talk in a couple of years. Who knows?
For
I
sure.
just thank you for making the time and keep making great music.
Thank
You
you.
got a great fan. over here,
Thank you so much, Jose. I look forward to meeting you in person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're gonna close on a day and we'll talk again next week. Nothing better than today. So you just stay here, keep listening. Don't even bother with the next interviews. This is what's great. Thank you very much. See you next week.
All right.
All
God
right.
bless.